Well, I have a pretty fun segment for you here. The Republican Party, ever since they got their majority in the House of Representatives after the 2022 midterms, have been holding and discussing and very excited about these hearings they've been doing and investigations, House investigations into Twitter's handling of the Hunter Biden laptop story and the weaponization subcommittee looking into the federal government being weaponized against conservatives. And we've talked about in other segments the absurdity of the individual claims and how they're not bringing valuable information to back up the claims they're making or to bolster the narrative they're putting forward. And it really is just an opportunity for them to get political points, feed conspiracy theories, and go after their political opponents, specifically, obviously, Joe Biden often. And so while this is going on, the hope is, if you are on the side of reason, okay, is that someone in the room will flip it around a little bit. Someone in the room will make this not just a moment for Republicans to do all of their political stunts without being called out for it. And that's what we're getting now. There are Democrats who are taking these hearings and these situations as an opportunity to expose the silliness, to expose the absurdity of many of these House Republicans in a fantastic way. And so that's what I have for you here. A few examples. First, Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, was making the claim and providing a bit of information to make the claim that the United States government has been the major pusher of false information on COVID. And Democratic Representative Jared Moskowitz beautifully flipped it around and made a fantastic point. Take a look.
I just want to relay something that was just stated during the roundtable. Dr. McCary just said today at the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic's roundtable the following, and I quote, "The greatest perpetrator of misinformation during the pandemic was the United States government." End quote.
Based on those comments, I too would like to get more information. I mean, was that person specifically talking about the misinformation that President Trump put out about maybe putting light into the body could get rid of COVID, or maybe using a horse tranquilizer to get rid of COVID? Was he talking about the misinformation about maybe we can do like a cleaning of the body, you know, as misinformation? And so, you know, I'd like to find out the misinformation that was put out. You know, COVID's going to go away in like a couple of months. That misinformation, you know, there was a lot of misinformation that was put out. And so I would love, we'd maybe hold a hearing on that, Mr. Chairman. I think that would be fantastic. I yield back.
Yes. If the political games are going to be going on, if the nonsense is going to be going on, then show up and make obvious that that's happening. And that's what this and other clips I'll show you and we'll be covering over the next, who knows how long, at least the next 2 years as they have this majority, we'll be definitely covering this. But there, if you're going to be saying that the United States put out misinformation on COVID, I actually agree with you. You know why? Because Trump was the single most powerful person within the government for much of the pandemic. And so I saw him put out a whole lot of misinformation on COVID. And whenever the most powerful person within the US government is making some people believe, as we saw during this time, that the solution to COVID was chugging bleach, then yeah, I would say there was some misinformation coming out of the U.S. government. Great job there. And then you have one of my favorites, guys. And today's show has a lot of clips from Jamie Raskin pointing out that in a lot of these hearings, there's a focus on the perceived or alleged conspiracy between Biden and the left and Twitter and the FBI to suppress free speech and to go after conservatives for saying things that Biden didn't like or the left doesn't like. And Jamie Raskin nicely highlights a little part of the story when it comes to these Twitter hearings that they're not so much focusing on.
I was very moved by the comments of Ms. Mason, the comments that followed hers, but I think the burden of their statements was simply that politicians try to get the media to do their will all the time. And I cheerfully concede to that proposition. In fact, we proved that in the last hearing when we showed that Donald Trump on numerous occasions tried to get Twitter to take down people's material that he considered offensive. A famous actress called him a PAB. I won't spell it out in the interest of modesty, but.
And in case PAB, what Jamie Raskin, what is he talking about? PAB, here was this moment.
Chrissy Teigen referred to Donald Trump as a pussy ass bitch.
All right, continuing.
But he didn't like that, and then the White House repeatedly called Twitter to say, take it down. He tried to get Disney to take down the comments and to admonish and castigate certain late-night comedians who he didn't like. So if the point is, as my friend from South Carolina was saying, well, this goes way beyond Twitter and Facebook, certainly it does. This problem goes way beyond it, and that's why the majority needs to think long and hard about going down this road, because determined efforts by politicians and state actors to influence the entire media system, which is what we're talking about now, sweep far more broadly than just Twitter and Facebook.
Right. So he brought up two examples there. Whenever Chrissy Teigen called Trump as president a PAB, sorry, I'm just picturing Trump getting so angry about that and having his team reach out to Twitter and say that needs to be taken down. And so they were very upset by the fact that when Biden was running for president, he reached out, or his team reached out to Twitter and said, there's unconsensually released photos of my son, Hunter Biden. That's against your TOS. Any chance you could take a look at it? And Twitter looked at it and went, oh, this is against our terms of service. We are going to take it down. That was upsetting to the very concerned with Twitter files people. Not so concerned with Trump reaching out to Twitter and asking them to take down something that was rude in his mind. And also, we learned and covered on the show yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, the fact that because Jimmy Kimmel said jokes about Trump that Trump didn't like, Trump got his team to reach out to Disney and say Jimmy Kimmel needs to not be so mean to Trump. So clearly there is, at least in the kindest terms possible, disproportionate focus from conservatives on some things when it comes to Democrats that are not what they think they are, when there are examples of actually what would be horrible in their mind on their side, which is not surprising but aggravating. Then you have another example of Jared Moskowitz calling out Trump's examples of trying to get freedom of speech suppressed.
Additionally, Mr. Chairman, it's come out not just with Twitter, but it's come out that Donald Trump had White House staff call the Disney Corporation to try and censor Jimmy Kimmel because the former president didn't like his jokes. And to quote Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Kimmel has responded to this saying that President Karen demanded to speak to my manager in order to censor my free speech through corporate ownership. Additionally, not dealing with government censorship, but it's also come out, Mr. Chairman, that during the last campaign, Fox News provided Trump's son-in-law with confidential information about President Biden's ads and President Biden's debate strategy, trying to put their finger on the pulse of the election. And so, listen, I applaud you guys for going back 5 years, because we're going to...
Okay, so another great thing to bring up. He also brought up Kimmel, but then the things we've learned through Dominion's lawsuit of Fox revealing that Rupert Murdoch, chair of Fox Corporation, was coordinating with Jared Kushner, giving him information that was called confidential information in these filings during this lawsuit process, and giving that to Jared Kushner within the Trump administration to help Trump in the election. Now, if it came out, just imagine, with your brain, that Biden had talked, or someone in the Biden team had talked with someone at CNN and given the Biden team private information to help Biden in the debate, private information about the ads Trump was going to be running, etc., what would happen on the right? There would be 15 committees looking into this. There would be 38 different investigations from Republicans. There would be protests across the country from Make America Great Again hat wearers, and the most upset energy would be gushing out of every single person who is right now concerned with the Twitter files that doesn't even prove the things they say that it proves. It would be mayhem, I tell you. And this happened, we're learning. And Fox News is just a massive propaganda network coordinating openly with those who have the Republicans' agenda in mind, including the Trump administration. And that doesn't bother them in the slightest. That's not bad at all. Whatever. Or examples of Trump trying to get free speech taken down. And that doesn't bother them at all. So if nothing else, that should prove we don't need to take any of these individuals seriously. Their points are just nonsense because clearly they're not coming at this in good faith. As if that's not something we've already known.